Pisa, the land of a poorly executed architectural oops that somehow turned into one of the most photographed landmarks in the world. If you think that sounds absurd, you've clearly never met Emma. She was practically vibrating with excitement as we approached the infamous Leaning Tower of Pisa. "Boys, we're here. Isn't it magical?" she chirped, gripping the steering wheel of Vandalf like she was piloting a starship through uncharted chaos. Magical? Sure, if your idea of magic involves hordes of dingbats taking the exact same photo of themselves pretending to hold up a crooked building. "Look at them," I muttered to Maurice as we watched tourists line up for their Instagram moments. "It's like a synchronized dance of stupidity." Maurice tilted his head, squinting at the scene. "Do you think it's a tradition? Like, if they don't take the picture, the tower might actually fall over?" His tail flicked with curiosity. "Right, Maurice," I deadpanned, "because centuries of questionable engineering are being held together by Karen from Wisconsin and her selfie stick." Emma, of course, joined in the madness. She set up her phone, adjusting the angle until it looked like she was holding up the tower with one hand. "Fluffy, Maurice, come here! Let's get a group shot!" she called, dragging us into her delusion. "Nope, not doing it," I hissed, flattening my ears. I refused to participate in this circus of mediocrity. Maurice, on the other hand, pranced over, donning his ridiculous construction hat from Milano. "Look at me! I'm fixing the tower!" he squealed, striking a pose. I buried my face in my paws. "This is it. This is how my dignity dies." Eventually, Emma declared it was time to leave, and we navigated the chaotic streets of Pisa toward the countryside. As the roads became quieter and the air smelled less like desperation and more like olive trees, Emma pulled Vandalf over next to a field. The sunset painted the sky with streaks of orange and pink, and for once I allowed myself a moment of peace. Naturally, peace didn't last. Emma opened the door to find an elderly Italian woman standing there, smiling warmly. She spoke rapidly in Italian, gesturing toward her small house nestled nearby. "What's she saying?" Maurice whispered, his ears perked. "No idea," I muttered, narrowing my eyes. "But if she's part of the mafia and this is a setup, I'm blaming Emma." Emma, using the universal language of awkward gestures and exaggerated smiles, managed to figure out the woman was inviting us for dinner. "She's offering us food!" Emma exclaimed, her face lighting up. "Food? Homemade Italian food?" Maurice practically floated out the door. "This is the best day ever!" "Or maybe we'll end up as the secret recipe in her tomato sauce," I muttered, reluctantly following. The old woman's house was straight out of a postcard, ivy crawling up the walls, garlic hanging in bunches, and a kitchen that smelled like heaven itself. She laid out a spread that could make Gordon Ramsay fall to his knees. Pasta glistening with olive oil, roasted vegetables, fresh bread, and some sort of meat that smelled so good I almost forgave humanity's existence. Maurice dove in like he hadn't eaten in days. "Fluffy, this is amazing. It's like every bite is a love letter to my stomach." I took a cautious nibble, then another, and then another. "Okay," I admitted begrudgingly. "This lady might actually know what she's doing." Ramsay would eat his words. "And her tiramisu." The woman beamed at us, clearly pleased with our approval, and Emma looked like she'd found her own version of paradise. After dinner, the woman gestured toward the barn next to her house, inviting us to park Vandalf there for the night. "Grazie," Emma said, her accent mangling the word, but the old lady just chuckled and nodded. The next morning, we were treated to a breakfast of fresh fruit, bread, and espresso, so strong it felt like an electric shock to the brain. As we ate, the old woman chatted animatedly with Emma, who nodded along despite understanding maybe 10% of what was being said. I watched as Maurice tried to help by chasing a rooster out of the yard, only to get pecked for his efforts. As the days passed, it became clear the old woman wasn't just inviting us for a meal. She genuinely wanted us to stay for a while. Emma helped her with small tasks around the property, gathering herbs from the garden, fixing a squeaky hinge on the front door, and even helping her hang laundry. Maurice tried to be helpful, but mostly ended up causing chaos, while I supervised from a safe distance, offering the occasional sarcastic meow. One evening, as we sat under the stars, the woman showed Emma a flyer for houses in nearby villages. They were practically giving them away, desperate for someone to breathe life back into these almost abandoned towns. Emma's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "Fluffy, Maurice," she said, clutching the flyer. "What if we had a place of our own?" I blinked at her, stunned. "A place of our own? Emma, have you seen how you handle Vandalf? You think owning a house is going to be easier?" Maurice, ever the optimist, wagged his tail. "Oh, Fluffy, imagine, a big garden to play in, our own rooms." I rolled my eyes. "Yeah, Maurice, because what we really need is more responsibility. Next thing you know, she'll be adopting chickens." Still, as I watched Emma chat with the old woman, laughing and gesturing toward the flyer, I felt a strange flicker of hope. Maybe this wouldn't be the disaster I was imagining. Or maybe it would be. Either way, I was along for the ride. "Oh, and by the way," I added, turning to the invisible audience of my ongoing misery, "if you're still listening to my tales of chaos and calamity, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You've already wasted this much time. Might as well hit that button." Maurice blinked at me. "Who are you talking to, Fluffy?" "Don't worry about it," I replied, flicking my tail. For now, life was oddly peaceful, but I knew the calm wouldn't last. Italy had already thrown its fair share of madness our way, and the idea of Emma owning property was both thrilling and terrifying. One thing was certain. Whatever came next, it was bound to be a spectacle.